All right, so we're diving into Tony Abbott.
Deep dive.
Yeah, a deep dive.
Into all the controversies.
And there are a lot.
Lots of them.
We've got articles, Wikipedia,
Yeah.
the whole shebang.
The whole thing.
Decades in Australian politics, this guy.
What's fascinating is that his career almost touches on every single hot-button issue.
Right?
You think about it, Indigenous affairs, climate change,
Yeah.
same-sex marriage.
It's all there.
He's right there in the middle of it.
And almost always taking the opposite stance.
Often going against the grain.
Of public opinion.
Even sometimes within his own party.
Right, and speaking about going against the grain,
Yeah.
one story from his university days, I don't know if you saw this one, it really jumped out.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently got into a physical altercation, a fight,
Yeah.
at his student conference.
Wow.
It's like that combative,
Pearl fighter.
yeah, combative spirit that we saw throughout his career. It was there from the beginning.
Almost makes you wonder if that incident in some way shaped him.
Right.
But,
Yeah. It is interesting to note that in his younger days,
yeah.
he was actually sort of leaning towards the Labor Party.
Really?
He even thought about becoming a priest.
Wow.
Really an interesting sort of
Yeah.
trajectory.
Complete opposite end of the spectrum there.
Yeah, but ultimately he landed firmly on the right
Yeah.
with the Liberal Party.
Hmm.
And in particular, developed this really strong stance against unions.
So not really someone who shies away from a fight, whether it's physical or ideological.
Exactly.
And that leads us to, I think, one of the biggest explosions during his time as prime minister, which was the 2014 Royal Commission into trade union governance and corruption.
Big one.
What was he hoping to achieve with that?
Well, the official line was all about protecting honest workers and honest businesses from corruption within unions. Abbott's argument was that these practices were hurting the economy and needed to be brought to light.
But you can't help but feel like there was a bit of a power play at work here.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
unions have traditionally been aligned with the Labor Party.
exactly as political rivals.
Exactly. And the unions definitely saw it that way.
Okay.
Calling it a witch hunt designed to weaken them.
Strong words.
Very strong words.
Yeah.
The ACTU president at the time, Dave Oliver, even accused Abbott of trying to attack workers' wages.
So you've got some quotes from both sides here that really capture the heat of this moment.
We do. Let's hear them. Okay, so Abbott, in announcing the commission, said he wanted to shine a great big spotlight into the dark corners of our community.
Oh, very dramatic.
Very dramatic. And then Oliver called the commission a blatant attempt to undermine unions.
Wow. So you could just feel that tension.
Yeah, the tension is palpable.
Both sides digging in for a fight.
Absolutely.
So did this commission actually achieve anything?
Well, it did lead to some findings against certain unions and individuals.
Okay.
Resulting in some pretty lengthy legal battles that dragged on for years.
Yeah.
But the long-term impact on industrial relations in Australia is still debated to this day.
Oh.
Some people argue it eroded trust between unions and the government even further, while others think that it led to some necessary reforms.
So another example of Abbott sparking controversy and leaving a lasting impact, whether he intended to or not.
Whether it was good or bad or whatever.
What stands out to you about his approach here?
Well, it's hard to separate, I think, his genuine beliefs from his political strategy.
Right.
You know, he had a long history of being critical of unions.
Okay.
Right,
Wow.
which might suggest a deep-seated ideological opposition.
Yeah.
But the timing and the framing of this commission certainly raised questions about his motivations.
Yeah. It does seem very convenient.
It does.
That it happened when it happened.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's always more than meets the eye with this guy.
Always.
All right, this brings us to another controversy that made headlines globally. Julia Gillard's misogyny speech and Abbott's stance on same-sex marriage, two issues that are kind of weirdly interconnected.
Yeah, in a strange way.
Yeah, so remind us, what was it that sparked Gillard's now famous speech?
So in 2012, Gillard, who was prime minister at the time, delivered this just blistering speech in Parliament, directly accusing Abbott of sexism and misogyny.
Wow.
She cited all these instances of what she perceived as derogatory remarks and behavior towards women, arguing that he was perpetuating these harmful stereotypes. And her speech went viral, like captured international attention.
Yeah, I remember.
And really framed Abbott in a certain light, particularly for women.
Must have been a really defining moment for both of them.
Huge moment for both of their careers.
So how did Abbott even respond to such a public and powerful accusation like that?
He denied the accusations of misogyny and defended his record.
Okay.
But the speech undoubtedly damaged his image. No. It also fueled this ongoing debate about sexism in Australian politics, which we're still having today.
Yeah. And this is where the story gets really interesting.
Okay.
Because Abbott, this man who was accused of misogyny by a female prime minister,
right,
also happens to have an openly gay sister.
Yes, Christine Forster.
Christine Forster, yeah.
Who he's quite close with.
With whom he's very close, yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of adds this other layer of complexity.
Yeah, absolutely.
To his worldview.
Complicates things.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about his stance on same-sex marriage.
Right.
Which was another source of massive controversy during his time in office.
Absolutely.
So he seemed to almost contradict himself at times on this, right?
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one.
Yeah.
Because throughout his career, he consistently opposed same-sex marriage.
Okay.
Citing religious beliefs, traditional values, justifications like that. He actively campaigned against its legalization and pushed for this national plebiscite on the issue, arguing that the people should have the final say.
Which is kind of interesting because on a lot of other issues, he wasn't afraid to act unilaterally, even if it meant going against public opinion.
Exactly.
So is this like a calculated move, or was this like a genuine shift in his approach?
Hard to say for sure.
Yeah.
Some say it was a strategic move to appease conservative elements within his party and the broader electorate. Others believe he genuinely felt an issue as significant as this should be decided by the Australian people.
Right.
Regardless of his motivations.
Yeah.
It highlights the complexities of his political maneuvering.
Right.
And his ability to sort of adapt to different situations.
So master strategist or just a politician trying to juggle all these different competing pressures?
Probably a little bit of both.
Probably a bit of both.
Yeah. But ultimately, his stance on same-sex marriage put him at odds with this growing tide of public support for marriage equality, culminating in its legalization under the Turnbull government.
Yeah.
Speaking of going against the tide.
Yes, let's move on.
Let's talk about climate change.
Yes, big one.
Another area where Abbott frequently clashed with public opinion and scientific consensus.
So where did he even stand on the issue?
Well, Abbott was well known for his early skepticism of climate change science.
Yeah.
He often expressed doubts about its severity and human causes, really aligning himself with a fringe, but vocal group of climate change deniers.
Pretty bold stance to take.
Very bold.
Given the overwhelming evidence supporting human-caused climate change.
The science was pretty clear.
Yeah. So what kind of policies did that skepticism lead to?
Well, as prime minister, he dismantled the carbon tax, which was a key policy of the previous Labour government aimed at reducing carbon emissions. He replaced it with the direct action policy, which incentivized businesses to reduce their emissions voluntarily.
Did it even work?
Well, that's debatable.
Okay.
Critics argued it was ineffective and lacked the teeth to make a real difference.
Okay.
Pointing to the fact that emissions continued to rise under his leadership.
Right.
Supporters, on the other hand, praised the policy for being less burdensome on businesses and for promoting innovation in clean technologies.
So another Abbott policy that sparked intense debate and divided public opinion.
Yep.
It does seem like his approach to climate change was driven more by ideology than by scientific evidence.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that his skepticism about the science informed his policy decisions.
Yeah.
Remember, in 2017, he gave a speech to the Global Warming Policy Foundation, which is a climate skeptic think tank, where he suggested that climate change might actually be beneficial.
Wow.
Which really raised a lot of eyebrows.
Talk about doubling down.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is consistent with his overall approach. If he believes in something, he's going to defend it.
Yeah, he's a conviction politician.
No matter how unpopular
or
controversial it might be.
He'll stand by his principles.
Yeah, like his own personal crusade.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so how about his approach to Indigenous affairs?
Okay.
He often spoke about wanting to make peace with the first Australians. Did his actions live up to his words?
That's a good question, I think.
Yeah.
Because while he championed some initiatives that were seen as positive, like spending a week each year living and working in remote Indigenous communities, his overall approach was often criticized for being paternalistic and a little bit out of touch.
So even when he seemed to be making an effort, there was still pushback.
There was.
What were people objecting to?
Well, indigenous leaders and communities argued that his focus on practical solutions, like education and employment programs, while well-intentioned, didn't address the underlying issues of historical injustice and systemic racism. They felt like he was trying to impose solutions from the top down without really listening to their concerns or involving them in the decision-making process.
The kind of like good intentions falling short because of a lack of understanding, genuine engagement.
Yeah, exactly.
And his stance on constitutional recognition of Indigenous Australians also drew mixed reactions. While he voiced support for the idea in principle, he was reluctant to commit to any concrete action, leading to accusations of empty rhetoric and a lack of genuine commitment to reconciliation. It seems like a recurring theme with Abbott.
It does.
Saying one thing but doing another, which led to accusations of hypocrisy and political maneuvering.
There was often a disconnect between his words and his actions, which ultimately undermined his credibility with many, particularly on these complex and sensitive issues like Indigenous affairs. It's a shame because some of his initiatives, like his commitment to spending time in Indigenous communities, could have been truly impactful if they had been coupled with a deeper understanding and genuine engagement with the community's needs and perspectives.
It makes you wonder if he genuinely wanted to make peace, or if it was more about political posturing and appealing to a certain segment of the electorate.
It's difficult to know what was going on behind the scenes and what his true motivations were. But what we can say for sure is that his approach to Indigenous affairs, much like his stance on other issues, generated a lot of controversy and debate, leaving behind a legacy that is both complex and contested.
Well, it seems like controversy is the word of the day.
It does, doesn't it?
When it comes to Tony Abbott.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just his policies that raised eyebrows. There were also some pretty memorable gaffes and scandals along the way.
Oh, absolutely. Who could forget Choppergate?
Oh, yeah.
When he billed taxpayers for attending a Liberal Party fundraiser under the guise of a bike ride.
A bike ride. Or when he knighted Prince Philip.
Oh, yeah.
Seemingly out of the blue.
Completely out of the blue.
Yeah, these incidents, while seemingly minor, really added to the public perception that he was out of touch with everyday Australians and prone to questionable judgment.
Yeah, I think those incidents, while they provided fodder for late-night comedians and political opponents, also point to this more serious question. Did these gaffes reflect a deeper lack of judgment that extended to his policy decisions?
That's a great question, and one that I think we should explore as we dive deeper into Tony Abbott's legacy.
We can do it.
All right, so we've seen Tony Abbott, the fighter, the ideologue, the gaffe-prone leader.
Yep, all of it.
Where does he fit into the bigger picture? What's his lasting legacy?
Well, I think he embodies this very specific brand of Australian conservatism. One rooted in traditional values, wary of government intervention, fiercely loyal to its allies. You know, he was polarizing, no doubt. But he was also a tremendously effective politician. I mean, he brought together this fractured Liberal Party. Secured a landslide election victory. Pushed through some significant policy changes.
Love him or hate him, he definitely left a mark.
He did.
But it's interesting to see him now, you know, on the UK Board of Trade, given all the controversies that we've discussed. It's a move that's raised a few eyebrows.
It has definitely sparked debate about whether his style of politics is a good fit for post-Brexit Britain. It's almost like a second act for him, you know, a chance to apply his instinct. And let's be honest, his controversial reputation on a global stage.
Do you think he'll tone it down, or are we going to see, like, the return of the Mad Monk on the world stage?
That's the million-dollar question. One thing's for sure. Tony Abbott is not someone who fades into the background. Whether you agree with him or not. He is a force to be reckoned with. His impact on Australian politics is undeniable. And I guess now we have to see how that translates to international affairs.
Makes you want to grab some popcorn and watch what unfolds. This Board of Trade appointment, I don't know. It could be a stroke of genius. Or a complete disaster. Who knows?
Only time will tell.
Only time will tell.
But regardless of what happens next, I think Abbott's career offers this fascinating case study in conviction politics, right?
Yeah.
He shows us what can happen when you stick to your beliefs. Even when they clash with public opinion or scientific consensus.
And it raises some thought-provoking questions for all of us, right?
It does.
Is conviction always a good thing?
Yeah.
Can you be an effective leader while also being so divisive? And ultimately, what price are you willing to pay for your principles?
Big questions.
Big questions.
Abbott's career, with all its triumphs and controversies, definitely leaves us with a lot to unpack and learn from. You know, he's a reminder that politics is rarely black and white. And that even the most polarizing figures can leave a lasting impact on the world.
Well, there you have it, a deep dive into the world of Tony Abbott.
That's right.
A man who never shied away from a fight or a headline.
He didn't.
Or a good dose of controversy.
No, he didn't.
We hope you found it insightful.
I hope so.
And maybe even a little bit entertaining.
And a little bit fun.
After all, Australian politics.
It is a bit of a show.
It can be quite the show.
That's for sure.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for listening.
On this wild ride.
Appreciate it.
Until next time, keep thinking, keep questioning,
keep learning,
and keep diving deep